If you have just joined, welcome to the main stage, the Ignite stage. I'm your host, George. I'll be with you until the back end of today. Loving the fact that I'm seeing people that was here for the first talk, down here at the front. Big up yourselves. So we're going to get into the third now. So please welcome the conversation, leading through disruption, navigating change in a tech-driven world. Please put your hands together for Renee Hunt, Clare Ashley, Hena Jalil, and Simon Hepburn. Let's get into it.
Okay, we're going to make a start. So thank you very much for joining us for today's session, Leading Through Disruption. I've got a fantastic panel who's joined in me today. So just to introduce myself, my name is Professor Simon Hepburn. I'm the Chief Executive of the Security Institute, an organization that's been founded where we've basically got members from the security profession and focus very much on cyber, tech, professional security and personnel security. Let me just like my guests to introduce themselves, please.
Hello, my name is Renee Hunt, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Compare the Market. That's the one with the meerkats. We exist to make financial decision-making a breeze for everyone.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name's Clare Ashley. I'm a Managing Director at Goldman Sachs. Spent most of my career in the engineering division, recently moved to compliance, but my core skill is around, firm-wide strategic program and project management and technology transformation.
Hello, my name is Hena Jalil, and I am the CIO of BT Business. If you want to know about BT, British Telecoms, just switch off broadband in your life and see what happens.
Thank you very much. As you can see, we've got an excellent panel who's joining us today. So what I'd like to do really quickly, these seats are very comfortable, so I do apologize if I'm looking down. I'm not WhatsApping my friends or family. It is because I've got just some notes. I am using technology, an old man that uses technology. But what I will do is just quickly set the scene. So we are living in very interesting times, both technologically and also challenging times geopolitically, as I'm sure you're all aware. Through COVID, we had large parts of the population who were furloughed, and also working from home. Post-COVID, working from home we basically had to utilize technology, and that became a core part of our kind of normal working patterns. But what we then had was the Great Resignation. So where people who were not happy at work were really looking at jobs that would really create a kind of work-life balance. But also where people also moved from usually cities to places where they can basically have larger spaces and gardens. So you had that large kind of transition. There was also the kind of hyper-hiring recruitment where you basically had a lot of vacancies in different roles, both in tech but also wider, especially based on people moving out of particular areas. So there was both a national and international kind of digital nomads, so people moving all around, not just the country, but also around the world and still using technology, being able to work. So we're living in times of rapid technological advancement and digital transformation. And it has become essential for organizations seeking to survive and thrive to understand how they will navigate the tech-driven world. So based upon this, I've got a few questions for my colleagues. So first question to my colleagues. So AI is going to redefine our industry over the next decade. And how should we prepare for these changes? Hena.
Great question, Simon. So one of the things I would say is AI is literally the next level of revolution after internet. And I think there's so much opportunity with it, but it's how we embrace it and how we react to it, which is going to ultimately make sure we drive maximum value for the world, essentially for us as humans, for businesses, but most of all, make the world a better place. So one of the things I would say is key themes I wanted to pick out is it is important from an individual perspective, but also an organization perspective, and we should differentiate between the two. As individuals and seeing a lot of young people in this group as well, one of the things I wanted to call out is growth mindset is absolutely important because you have to be learning and experimenting and keep your mind open and evolve, learn, put yourself out there and find out as much as possible. Stuff is changing fast, and adoption rate of ChatGPT is faster than pretty much every other tech in history. So to be mindful of that. The other thing I would say is in an organization, one of the things you have to encourage is cross-functional working as well. AI is a tool, but it's a very powerful one and needs a holistic perspective on how you can reimagine your organization. It's not just about what the tech does, but it is also about how the business runs and how you can serve your customers better. So that's what I wanted to check from a customer's perspective, from an organization perspective. The second aspect around AI I wanted to bring out was it's about building foundations in an organization, because now everyone's experimenting, there are data issues, there are challenges, risks, but with every disruption of technology, you have challenges, and it's how you address them. So the key thing, like what BT has done, is we have built a whole framework of how we're going to use it, which has been very interesting, and we've partnered with a lot of hyperscalers, and we've built a Gen AI gateway where we're building two very important things which is unique for us. Number one is essentially about data fabric. It makes sure, as we are, gifting our most important and valuable asset to people, to these tools, we have a grip of that. And the data fabric helps us do that. The second piece we've done as part of that is also a Gen AI gateway. What it essentially does is there's loads of LLM tools out there. They're very expensive, and you get different results. Some things are strong and certain things. Nobody's set on what the leader in the market is, as you all have been experiencing as well. So the thing for us on that one has been, how do you stitch it all together? And we've built a gateway with one of our partners, I won't name them on the stage, which is helping us say, for any query or anything that we are sending, how do we stitch it all together to deliver maximum value? So we've been very, very prescriptive about using that gateway so that not everyone's associating directly with LLMs. The third really important piece I wanted to call out is about building governance and measuring value, because you can play with a lot of technology and it's fun. It's really fun. All of us want to do it. But how do you extract the actual value for our customers and drive those business outcomes? That is really important. These tools are expensive, but they need to drive that purpose, improve customer experience, and really take a business from strength to strength.
Thank you very much, Hena. So what I would ask, so Renee, could you answer that same question?
Oh, goodness. So, yes, I think the other piece, and I agree wholeheartedly with what you said, Hena, especially the value proposition. I think the piece to recognize, though, is that most organizations are not ready, like properly not ready for the disruption that AI is going to bring. And by that, I mean really boring things like processes, policies, governance. And the interesting part about this is there are disruptors everywhere, and they're not going to be held back by our internal processes, policies, and governance. They might not even care what the regulator says. So if you're a leader or if you're in a position of influence, you need to go look at your current policies, your processes, your governance, and look for what's going to prevent the adoption and get busy improving, removing that friction. Because the disruptor who's going to disrupt your industry doesn't care. So I would say this is a big part of how you can get ready, is get ready at the boring level, not just the sexy, exciting level.
That leads, thank you very much for that, Renee. That leads on really nicely to my next question. How do you identify and evaluate the strategic risks associated with adopting new and emerging technologies, and how can we mitigate these risks? Claire.
Thanks, Simon. And again, a very good question. And actually, Renee and Hena both touched on some of the points that I think I would raise to answer this question. In terms of evaluating your risks, each of us know our businesses really well, and you should have a good idea of kind of what are the main risks that your businesses face. I think of it from a external and internal perspective. And, I sit in a bank. From an external perspective, there are two main things that I would be focused on. They're really around the regulatory environment. So as Renee alluded to, actually understanding whether or not these new emerging technologies fit within your regulatory constraints, looking out at the legal and compliance frameworks and whether or not you're set up to actually be able to serve your clients using these new innovative technologies. Outside of that, I think, and in order to mitigate that, I think you have to be kind of having a dialogue with your regulators, having a dialogue with your legal and compliance departments, also with the industry, and seeing where you can get in and actually influence some of these discussions and these decisions around the use of new technologies. We've seen a number of businesses explore, blockchain, digital assets, etc. Goldman Sachs being one of them. AI is another example. But making sure we're kind of front and center of some of those conversations is key to ensure that we're able to help shape the kind of regulatory landscape around it. I think the second thing for us would be reputational, right? That's a massive thing. We look after a lot of money for our clients, and we cannot be seen to be willy-nilly in the way that we go out and use technology, right? We have to make sure that we're putting our clients' needs first, and so ensuring that we're being thoughtful about where we're investing and where we're spending our time is absolutely key. We can't afford to have our reputation damaged in a way that would impact our ability to work with new customers and clients. From an internal perspective, and more thinking, I guess, from the kind of technology space, and this is Simon's area, obviously things like cyber security, tech risk, that's a massive thing for any firm, but for a bank where you're dealing with people's money, that is absolutely key. And I think you have to, in order to mitigate that, you have to look at how are you building, how are you leveraging these tools? Do you have a security first mindset in the tools and applications that you're building? There's no coincidence that some firms were more impacted by the CrowdStrike incident recently than others, right? And it's the way that people thought about how they were building their systems and tooling. And then the other piece, again, which Renee alluded to, is the adoption and the client, I guess the client benefit, right? There is a lot of talk about AI. There's massive investment in AI, as an example. But actually, does the ROI of that investment make sense for your clients? Are your traders, are your businesses going to be thankful for the efficiencies that you bring them, right? Is it actually making that dollar impact for them? We can't go out and spend millions of pounds on something and then the ROI is just not there. So making sure that you have that buy-in from the businesses, you understand your business, you know what they need and why they would want to use that is going to be key. And that's also going to help with your adoption and the culture piece, right? People aren't going to adopt a tool that they see no benefit in, so making sure you understand that your client base is going to be key.
Thank you very much, Claire. And you did, right at the end there, you did mention culture, which really leads onto my next question. How can senior leaders foster a culture of continuous improvement within their organization and their teams? What are the key factors that they need to enable successful technological adoption and innovation in an organization level? Renee.
Thank you. I think the culture piece is an important one because people, we haven't been AI'd out of a job yet, so people are still at the core of everything we do in tech. And I think starting with breaking down barriers and addressing the fear, right? Every new technology, every new innovation has a halo of fear around it. And so you really need to address the fear. And one way you won't do that is by creating an ivory tower group over in the corner who are the only people who are allowed to touch the tech. So I'll use AI as an example. Sorry about that, but we are in the middle of our AI journey. And in CTM, we gave everyone in the organization access to enterprise AI tools. Everyone. PAs, the folks who work in facilities, everyone. Because innovation doesn't happen in a lab, it happens while people are doing work. And giving people access to the tools that will help them be more creative, have less toil, is how we're going to foster innovation and adoption. The second piece is lead by example. So I'm the CTO. I have to talk to people about what I'm doing, how I'm going on my AI journey, what I'm finding frustrating, what I find beneficial. And in doing so, that creates some vulnerability for me to give people permission to try and fail. It's important that I lead, so it's probably not good if I Google what's an LLM in front of my team. But being vulnerable with new technology makes that more accessible for your team, and that's going to help adoption. The third thing I would say is talk to your teams. Talk to your people. Ask them what they're doing. It's very impactful, especially for everyone in the room who are leaders, to ask people about how are you using it? What did you learn today? What did you find frustrating? Because it creates a sense of expectation. Oh, they expect me to do this because they're going to ask me about it. But it also creates a bit of accountability, As you said, I think is absolutely spot on. These things are expensive, like beyond expensive. So if we're not using them, you're not going to get those innovation. You're just not. And then you're going to turn around and go, well, we splodged £1 million on this. What did we get out of it? So asking folks creates that accountability. And you have to measure. And I know engineers don't like to be measured, but you need to measure it, because otherwise, how are you going to turn around and say, we're using these tools so often and we're doing the top following things with? Finally, I would say 2 things. Support. You need to support people with resource. So while I don't believe in the big AI ivory tower, we do at Compare the Market have dedicated resource whose job it is to take their knowledge of tooling and go to different business functions who have the knowledge of the function, pull those 2 things together to find the best ways to apply that tooling. Additionally, in technology, we have subject matter experts. We rotate engineers through our lab, and that does 2 things. It provides resource at the point of use where you can be coached through something you're trying to do, especially with code and anything you're doing around code creation, code validation. Having someone there who understands how these tools work, very helpful. And then finally, communicate. Right? We have to talk. I know we're in tech, we don't like talking. We have to talk to people about the fact that it's important. We have to keep it on the top subject line so it doesn't become, oh yeah, here we go, AI, they're talking about it again. Like whatever the innovation is, right? And what people are learning, what's been successful. Tell those stories, recognize it to keep that in the consciousness. If you measure it and you recognize it and you reward it and you talk about it, those are the things that are going to make people feel comfortable to get involved and take some risk.
Thank you very much, Renee. My next question is, if we can answer this one for me, please, first. And I'll ask all of my candidates here. What strategies can senior leaders employ to effectively respond to disruptive changes and maintain their competitive edge?
Fantastic. So one of the things I would say is change is the only constant in life. And it's important for all of us to appreciate it. And I think it's really important to take a step back and have a strategy around whatever change might be coming. So you have to have the foresight and the depth to have those engaging conversations and kind of reimagine what's coming down the path and preparing your teams for that. That is pretty important. And the second piece I would say is investing in people. So Renee and Claire both have talked a lot about the culture and people, and I've got Liz from BT as well sitting in the audience. And I think it's such a critical part to invest in your people and your culture to set it up for success.
Renee?
I love the invest in people always. I would say always be learning. So that's one of my taglines. If you are not investing your personal time, not just your education time at work, in really learning about the new technologies, the new innovations, the new products and tooling out there, you are going to get caught out. So as leaders, you set the example by communicating about what you're learning and encouraging and making that space and time for your team to be learning as well.
Claire?
Yep, great answers, and I echo the same. It's all about kind of that awareness of what's happening. And the only way you can get that really is by learning, by asking questions, by seeking feedback. I spend a lot of time with younger people who know all of the cool things and teach me a lot. And I enjoy that, right? And I'm going to highlight up my mentees in the crowd. You know who you are. But I learned so much from them, and actually learning, seeking feedback, actually setting myself up for any change, but also setting up my teams for change is key. And I think the only other thing I would just say is making sure that you understand what your organizational structures look like and how they're set up for any change. Sometimes you can't anticipate what the next disruption will be, but once you see the trends changing, like how are you set up? Are you ready? Do you think your team is ready to actually be able to adapt to these new changes?
Perfect. And I've got a few supplementary questions because we've got some time, which is wonderful. So absolutely, so well done. So there's 2 things there. The one thing you said there, Claire, in relation to reverse mentoring. So you've got some mentors. So for all 3 of you, have you got reverse mentees? and what has been that experience, especially around disruption, learning, and how you make that kind of incorporate within the organization?
Yeah, I mean, I do.
Yep.
I mean, I guess it started out as a mentor relationship, but actually what I get from them is huge, right? I remember when I had a mentee start talking to me about some of these Monzo accounts and so on. This was a few years ago. And I was like, what is Monzo? Like, I am that old. So yeah, absolutely. It helps me stay young. It helps me stay fresh. It helps me stay informed. And it helps me change the way I think about things. Like, you know, I'm slightly older generation. You know, we do things a certain way. We work a certain way. We get frustrated at younger kids don't want to do that. And so it's really a re-education for me to really reframe how I think. And I bring it into kind of my work and as I work with my teams.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
I'll just go next. So, I mean, similarly, I've got reverse mentees as well. And I have to say, we're all some of our experiences in life. And it is so important to see, you know, an experience from the other side or some other experience. And I've got a couple of them, and I think they contribute so much for my self-development. It's amazing to see that. And the other things I've also learned a lot learning from them is how to stay relevant, back to your point, because we don't spend enough time with, you know, like the new Gen Zs and stuff, and there's so much we can learn from them with regards to relevance on technologies, dependence on that. I've got adult kids in universities, and when I'm coming up with new ideas, I always test it with a lot of my reverse mentees and my kids, and it helps me substantially because I know it's going to land or it's going to be just one old school rubbish. So, you know, just being open and honest. And the other piece around that is also running to the fire. They've got a lot of energy and momentum, and, you know, just channeling that. And, you know, I feel as if I'm a lot more motivated once I've had those sessions as well.
Thank you very much. Excellent, excellent. And Renee?
I would just finish with, so I'm never comfortable with reverse mentee because I feel like it's a mentorship and it goes both ways. So I would encourage everyone in this audience, regardless of where you are in your career, to mentor someone. There is someone you will be a gift to, and in the practice of mentoring, you will learn how to better work with your mentor and have more than one, and you don't have to have a weird conversation. Will you be my mentor? Like, it's not necessary. Reach out to someone you have chemistry with and build that relationship. It's been the single biggest difference in my career is having mentors who care about my success, and you have to pay that forward by being that person, and it's never too early to start. So that's number one. And then, yes, I have people who are younger than me or earlier than me in their careers who mentor me, right? The biggest thing I learned from one of my mentors is younger people are not necessarily wrong when they see the world differently to us. And that was like, right, like, oh, these, you know, Gen Z people. I'm like, they're not wrong. Every innovation in the world, like, you know, like this whole weekend thing will never ever take off, right? Like, that was because someone had this wild idea that we shouldn't work 7 days a week. So I think we should be open to the idea that younger people have experienced a world we will never experience because of how we came up, and they're not necessarily wrong. And the more we listen to each other, I think we can get rid of a lot of this pain in the world.
I think that's a really nice point to end on. Thank you very much. Can I have a round of applause for my excellent guests, Hena, Renee, and myself, Simon and Claire. Thank you very much. And do touch base with us if you want conversations. Thank you very much.